It's certainly hockey weather out there this afternoon, but no, it was an emotional day for a lot of different reasons yesterday, and certainly want to thank everybody that was willing to come out, buy a ticket, and join us in the festivals. I thought the presentation, our event management people did a great job prior to the game, and certainly for our players, it's for most of them a once in a lifetime experience to get a chance to play in such a front of a big crowd. And certainly the last time we did it was special, but they added the jumbotron since we've been able to do it again, and that just adds a whole nother layer to the experience, just from the exposure and what you can see and can't see from the bench. And so it was a special day, and an emotional day for a lot of people, and certainly recognizing some people that needed to be recognized and some groups that needed to be recognized as far as firefighters, police officer, veterans, and so I was very happy. I actually enjoyed the game. I liked the way we played. I certainly would have liked to score a few more goals, but as we all know, probably the most challenging part of our business is to get the puck in the net, and Ohio State's goaltender played very well in our match Saturday, and then played very well yesterday, and it took 3-on-3 and overtime to finally get the game winner by her. But it was a fun afternoon, and very thankful and appreciative to everybody within our athletic department for helping put on a very memorable afternoon.
Questions?
As I'm sure you know, scoring gets tougher at this time of the year. What has been tougher about it in these last few games for your team? You're getting chances. Is what's not finishing?
Well, it's just the last step of getting puck across the goal line. You get a penalty shot, you get a 5-on-3 opportunity for over 40 seconds, and you're on the bench figuring, well, this is going to be an opportunity that hopefully she's not going to stop. But she played well, and what I was really impressed with is the way she controlled her rebounds. And so usually you'll get rebounds that'll pop out 4, 5, 6, 8 feet in front of the net, and she was able to control most of them where the puck was going into corners. And we had breakaways, we had opportunities, and that's the encouraging part. If we weren't getting those opportunities, then you'd have some concerns. But eventually things tilt in the other direction, and if you keep getting out quality opportunity, eventually a puck's going to go in. That's what history has shown me. It can be really frustrating, maybe from a player standpoint or from the coaching standpoint when you see so many opportunities and you don't get rewarded. But the big thing is that keep doing what you're doing, and eventually something's going to go in.
Mark, back here. For how you saw your team respond yesterday. Lost 2 in a row heading into the afternoon. They go down 1-0 early, but to keep fighting, get that late goal in the third period, and then 3-on-3 pull out the points for the standings. I mean, how important was that to see from your team?
Well, I think it's important, as I mentioned to the group after the game yesterday afternoon, that I was really impressed with our ability to keep grinding away, keep trying to get quality opportunities. 2 games in a short period of time on a bigger ice surface takes a lot more energy to play on the sheet yesterday, and then you get into overtime, then you get into 3-on-3, and we still kept competing, we still kept getting quality opportunities. You were just hoping something was going to come in and get the puck by their goaltender. When Abby scored, I thought, the crowd got into it, there was energy on our bench, and for the next 4 or 5 minutes, I thought we might be able to get one. We had a great look in overtime, and eventually got the puck by her in our 3-on-3 contest. But, I told the group, if we're able to play at that level and put that much commitment into the game, we should be playing for a while here.
Brian.
Mark, it's a pretty big weekend for a team you used to play for, but your team that you're coaching now has a big weekend as well. So where are you going to be this weekend, Mark?
My main focus, as I think I've mentioned many times, is try to stay away from distractions and keep as many distractions away from the group as possible. This past weekend was no different. Talking with the group on Friday after practice with, senior day, a lot of parents and families coming in, and the players have to enjoy it. I told them yesterday when we, as we were going on the ice to start the game, enjoy this because it's a once in a lifetime experience. Cherish the moment. Enjoy it as much as you can, and when they drop the puck, let's get ready to play. And this week's no different for me. Obviously, there's a lot of things coming into my world that once every 4 years and once every 10 years now seem to be coming in. But my main focus is to get the group ready to play. Obviously, there's a lot on the line and a lot at stake, and I'm looking forward to seeing how we respond to this past weekend. Going on the road, playing a top 10 team in their building. And, our ability to play at a real high level and try to do that for 6 periods. And so that's what I'll focus in on. The other stuff is just part of my world.
How much does not winning the regular season title last year sit with you and your players that are back from then going into a similar situation this year?
Last year, that was a tough pill to swallow just because, the way it was set up at the end of the year and what we were able, had a chance to do and opportunities. But, you look at the big picture, what was the best thing that happened to us last year? Probably not winning our league championship because it set us up for playing the following weekend and not having that weekend off. And, had a great week of practice. Our mindset got into a good place and, the rest became history. And sometimes, you have to take a step backwards to move 2 steps forward. And, that was the best thing that happened to us. Although when you're going through that experience, coming back Sunday and Monday and, having a real bitter taste in your mouth because you let something go away that you had a good firm grasp on. But, sometimes life throws things at you, and when you're in the moment, it's hard. But when you step back after 2 or 3 or 4 weeks later and look at things that transpired and why your team was successful and how, they were able to control some adversity and move forward in a positive direction, that was it.
Mark back here in the middle. Now, this weekend will be 40 years from Miracle on Ice. What has been the biggest lasting impact from that for you?
What? Throw that at me again?
The 40-year anniversary.
Yep.
Coming up.
Gray hair. That means I'm old. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No.
But what has been the biggest lasting impact from that, historical weekend for you and that historical Olympic run for you?
The biggest one is that you're asking me a question about a game in an event that took place, a long time ago in a small little community up in upstate New York. And we're talking about a hockey game. And at that time, and as I've told, several other reporters in different settings, that, you take computers, you take cell phones, you take a lot of the ways we communicate today and eliminate it. And that's what we experienced up there in Lake Placid was, this 2-week period of time, for all of us on that team, all the different players from different areas were getting an opportunity to fulfill a dream of playing in the Olympics, actually playing in your home country. And so that was, certainly made it more special. Had no idea what was going to happen. Had no expectations as far as maybe getting a chance to win a medal. Our biggest goal was to try to get in the medal round and make sure we didn't embarrass ourselves in front of our home country. And, the one thing about sports, and certainly hockey is one of those sports where, momentum is a powerful tool. And as you build up momentum and you continue to build on that, and then the people and surroundings that you're in create more momentum, and, all of a sudden things that maybe weren't possible become maybe a little bit more realistic. And the one thing people talk about in that event is the game that we played Russia and ended up beating them. But, entering the tournament, we didn't even know if we were going to get a chance to play them. Our big thing, as I mentioned, was try to get in the medal round and, make sure we did things early in the tournament, because you've had a hiccup in those events early in the tournament, you may not get a chance at the end. So any kind of loss early in the tournament was going to be a major factor and affect us as far as getting into the medal round. And so A lot of people, if they've looked into it now, understand we played our first game and the Olympics hadn't even opened up yet. We played Sweden the day before the opening ceremony. So you look at each of those games, you look at moments with each of those games building up to the medal round game against Russia, and things happen within that game to start some momentum. When Billy Baker scored in the last minute of that game to salvage a tie and come away with it in a real positive setting, that really started the momentum. And then you get a chance the next day to walk through the opening ceremonies, and when you're hosting in the Olympics, you're the host country. You come in last, and so it was a special setting. And then the next day really kept the momentum and really started the momentum going up to a different level when we played the Czech team, one of the few teams that the Russians were afraid of because they had enough personnel to upset the Russians and walk away with a gold medal. And we ended up beating a real good Czech team, not handily, but we beat them pretty convincingly. And that kept the momentum going, and then it just built up into that Russian game. And when we got done with West Germany in Game 5, and our MO was always to fall behind. It seemed to be, for whatever reason, we always fall behind and then come up late and end up winning, and no different in that last game against West Germany, knowing if we won the game, we're going to be in the medal round, and we ended up coming back and winning, I think, 4-2 against the West Germans. And you're excited. Now you're in the medal round. The only problem is you take a step back and, oh, geez, now we got to play the Russians. And so, again, you look at that game and you look at each period. Certain things had to happen, whether it was Jimmy making a save or us scoring a goal, and try to get somewhere in the third period where you're either close or tied. And so we were able to do that and, got to the finish line. And for most of us at that particular juncture, the game was tape delayed, as we all know. So a lot of us, our families were staying up at the top of the hill in Lake Placid at a Holiday Inn at that time, and most of us made our way up the long hill, and Andy and I have walked that a few times, but we got up there, watched the game tape delay, and actually pinched ourselves because we won again. We didn't know if we were having a dream the first time around, and we ended up beating the Russians, but we actually got a chance to watch a tape delay and won that one, so it was exciting. And it's interesting because now I've been a coach for a long time, and I remember getting up Saturday morning and leaving the village and going to practice, and got to the practice arena, and Herb Brooks, our coach at the time, was probably in the grumpiest mood, angry mood that we had seen him all year. And if people had seen the movie Miracle, the movie makes him out to be a nice guy. So you can imagine what he was like Saturday morning when we got to the rink. But, as a young 18-year-old, 22-year-old, which is basically the age of all our players, your mindset is totally different than the coach. And so you can imagine now, Herb coming in, knowing we had just beat the Russians for the first time in the tournament, we controlled our own destiny. And so what happened Sunday morning at 11 o'clock, we could either win a gold medal if we won the game, or if we lose the game, we might not even get a medal. And so if you're the coach and the leader of the group at that time on Saturday, how do you get these guys off cloud nine after beating the Russians back down to earth, knowing that in less than 24 hours, depending on the results of that game, might impact everybody's future, either in a positive way or a negative way. And so we had probably one of our firmest practices that Saturday morning, and we as players couldn't understand why he was so grumpy. But, as you forward, 5, 6, 8, 10 years, I become a coach, and now I'm in a similar situation. I'm sure Herb didn't sleep Friday night, and I'm sure he didn't sleep Saturday night just because he understood what, depending on the results of that Sunday game, might affect him. And so, it was a grinding practice, but we get up Sunday morning, and typical to our MO, we fall behind against a good Finnish team, and we're down 2-1 going into the third period. And Herb came into the locker room in between the second and third period and said one thing twice, and so it hit home real quickly. If you lose this game, you're going to take it to your blank and grave. Took a couple steps back, said the same thing, walked out of the locker room. And as I've told people before, and you know, it's interesting when you go through 6 months with a group of players, and Tony had just talked about it with his senior group, and the special bonds you develop and you have over a time period that you spend with your players, whether it's 4 years in college or with us, you know, and that team was 6 months. The friendships that were developed and, you know, the family atmosphere that that group was able to create, and probably was the biggest reason that we gave ourselves a chance to win at the end. No guarantees, but, you know, really coming together, really playing for each other, really trusting each other and really caring for each other gave us the best opportunity to have success at the end. And so as we sat in the locker room between that second and third period of that Finland game, you could just sense the calmness of all the junk and all the crap and all the things we endured over that 6-month period. There was no way a group of Finns was going to beat us. And so as we walked onto the ice in the third period, I think for a lot of us, we knew we were going to win the game. We just didn't know how the script was going to go. And then, you know, Phil Verkota scores a goal early in the period to make it 2-2. You know, Robbie McClanahan scores to make it 3-2. Again, it's not going to be easy. We take a couple penalties late in the period and give them an opportunity to tie up. But I scored a shorthander, you know, late in the period, and that sort of solidified. And look back in that period, that was probably one of the best periods we played all season. And so, you know, you're prepared to do something. Now you get an opportunity to do it. Can you execute and go do it? And we were able to execute that, and now we sit back 40 years later and talk about that game. So that's probably the biggest thing that impacts me, just talking about it. So here we go.
I have so many follow-up questions, but
Yeah.
in the essence of time, let's do
We have
one here.
time for one
yeah,
more.
let's do one more. But time.
I just wanted to, you know,
Sorry.
it's connected with so many people, Mark. And I'm sure they've shared the ways that's connected with them and where they were. Are there any stories that you've been told by people from outside the team of why it meant so much to them or what they were doing that it meant so much to them that have stuck with you over these years?
You could, I mean, you could really, you could write a book on those. You know, there's people driving along an interstate in the middle of a rainstorm, and they pull underneath the underpass, and, you know, the game's on the radio, and all of a sudden somebody else pulls up, and there's, you know, 5 or 6 cars, you know, in the middle of a highway, in the middle of wherever, and they're all listening to the game, and the game ends, and, you know, the complete strangers who are just going wherever they're going are hugging in the middle of the highway. And so, you know, we've heard many, many different stories about, you know, exactly what people were doing at that particular time in life. And, you know, to me, that's probably another area that makes it special, 'cause when they find out that you were part of that group, they will, you know, if they're old enough like I am and saw the game live or heard about the game, they'll tell you exactly what they were doing. And so they share that story with us. And the excitement and the energy as they tell it to you is just, it's priceless. And then we can share, you know, what we were doing at that particular time, obviously playing the game, but, you know, what it meant to us. And so it's just this, you know, this friendship between two people that may not know each other and certainly don't know each other. And, you know, they just are sitting there sharing stories, and it's just fun and it's energetic.